The inheritance of stars. The repair bay on Proxima Station smelled of burnt wiring and coolant fluid. Morgan Reed wiped the sweat from her brow, leaving behind a streak of engine grease as she slid out from beneath the battered freighter. 6 hours of work had yielded progress, but the hyperdrive motivator was still acting up. Morgan preferred it this way, just her and the ships, no crew to manage, no small talk required. Machines made sense, people were far more complicated. "Reed, package for you," called Devon, the station's quartermaster, his voice echoing through the cavernous hangar. "Fancy one too, got security protocols I've never seen before." Morgan frowned. She never received packages, she made sure of that. Her life on the edge of colonized space was deliberately isolated, carefully constructed to keep her past buried. She took the small metallic cube from Devon, turning it over in her oil-stained hands. "Any idea who sent it?" she asked, examining the unfamiliar script etched into its surface. "Nope, came in on that Centauri transport this morning. Pilot said it was handed to him by some robed figure on Elbaris Station. Weird stuff." As Devon walked away, the cube hummed to life in Morgan's palm. Light erupted from its surface, scanning her face, her retinas, even her DNA. A message appeared, projected in the air between her and the cube. "Morgan Reed, last descendant of Lieutenant Marcus Reed of the Earth Expeditionary Force. Your inheritance awaits at the following coordinates. The Voltheran Council acknowledges your blood right." Morgan's blood ran cold. The Voltheran, an ancient race that had disappeared from the galaxy nearly 3 centuries ago. Their technological marvels were the stuff of legend, their ships capable of feats that modern engineering could only dream of. And Marcus Reed, her great-grandfather, a name her family never spoke aloud. What connection could he possibly have had to the Voltheran? She should ignore it, throw the cube into the station's incinerator and forget it ever existed. But curiosity, her eternal weakness, burned too bright. Within hours, Morgan had requisitioned a small scout ship citing an emergency salvage operation. No one questioned her. As the station's best engineer, she had earned that trust. The coordinates led her deep into the Gliese Void, a sector notorious for spatial anomalies and gravitational distortions. Navigation systems struggled here, and most ships avoided the region entirely. Morgan's scout ship fought against invisible currents as she pushed deeper into the void, following the cube's increasingly urgent pulses. After 3 days of travel, she arrived at what appeared to be nothing, empty space. But the cube pulsed frantically, its light patterns changing. Suddenly, the void shimmered, reality itself seemed to fold, and a massive station materialized before her. Its architecture defied human understanding, curves and angles that shouldn't exist flowing into one another in a way that made her eyes hurt. A tractor beam engaged without warning, drawing her ship into a cavernous docking bay. The moment her ship touched down, the bay sealed itself, atmosphere flooding in. Morgan checked her environmental readings: breathable air, standard gravity, temperature slightly warmer than human preference. The cube in her hand grew hot, then disintegrated into fine particles that scattered to the floor. "Morgan Reed," came a voice that seemed to emanate from the walls themselves. "We have awaited your arrival for 73 of your years." A figure emerged from the shadows, tall, willowy, with iridescent skin that shifted colors with each movement. Not quite humanoid, but close enough to be unsettling. Four arms moved with fluid grace as the being approached. "I am Nexus, caretaker of this outpost," it said, voice melodic yet emotionless. "The inheritance of your ancestor awaits you." "What inheritance?" Morgan demanded, hand instinctively reaching for the plasma cutter at her belt. "I don't understand any of this. My great-grandfather was just a lieutenant in the Earth fleet." Nexus tilted its head, the gesture oddly bird-like. "Lieutenant Marcus Reed was more than he appeared. During the Voltheran conflict, he made a choice that altered the course of our civilization. In recognition of his actions, he was named blood-bonded to the Nemesis. And now, as the last of his line, that bond passes to you." Morgan followed Nexus through corridors that seemed to shift and change as they walked, never quite the same when she looked back. The caretaker spoke of the Voltheran's retreat from the galaxy, of waiting for the right time, the right person. Morgan barely heard the words, her mind reeling with implications. They emerged onto a vast observation deck. Beyond the transparent barrier floated what could only be described as a living ship. Unlike the utilitarian vessels Morgan had spent her life repairing, this craft was organic in appearance, its hull composed of overlapping plates that pulsed with faint bioluminescence. It was massive, at least 3 times the size of an Alliance capital ship, yet it moved with a grace that defied its bulk. "The Nemesis," Nexus announced, pride evident in its voice. The last warship of the Voltheran fleet and now yours to command. Morgan stared in disbelief. I'm an engineer, not a captain. I fix ships, I don't command them. The Nemesis is not merely a vessel to be commanded, Nexus explained. It is a symbiotic entity that bonds with its captain. Your bloodline was chosen for this honor. The ship has been waiting for you. As if responding to its name, the Nemesis moved closer to the observation deck. A section of its hull retracted, revealing what appeared to be a docking port. Nexus gestured toward it. The joining must be completed. The galaxy faces threats that were foretold millennia ago. The Nemesis must have its captain. Morgan backed away. This is insane. I didn't ask for this. I don't want it. Want has never been a factor in destiny, Morgan Reed, Nexus replied, unmoved by her protest. Your ancestor understood this when he saved our civilization from destruction. Now his debt passes to you. Despite her misgivings, Morgan found herself drawn to the ship. Something called to her, a whisper at the edge of consciousness. Before she could process what was happening, she was walking through the docking port into the Nemesis itself. The interior was unlike any ship she had ever seen. The corridors seemed alive, pulsing with the same bioluminescence as the hull. There were no obvious control panels, no wiring, nothing that resembled the mechanics she understood, yet somehow she knew exactly where to go. She found herself in what had to be the bridge, a circular chamber dominated by a crystal structure at its center. As she approached, the crystal flared with light, and Morgan felt a presence brush against her mind. "Oh, Captain." The word wasn't spoken aloud but resonated within her skull. Morgan recoiled, but the presence followed, gentle yet insistent. "We have waited so long." What are you?" Morgan whispered, her voice echoing in the empty chamber. "I am Nemesis, you are my captain, we are bound." The crystal pulsed, and Morgan felt an overwhelming surge of information flood her consciousness. Star charts, weapon systems, the ship's capabilities, all pouring into her mind faster than she could process. She staggered, clutching her head as the knowledge threatened to overwhelm her. "Stop, it's too much." The flow of information eased, but the presence remained. Forgiveness, excitement, long wait. Morgan realized the ship was communicating not just with words but with emotions, concepts. "You're sentient," she gasped. "Yes, all Voltheran ships are alive, but I am more, I am the last, the protector." Over the next several hours, Morgan explored the Nemesis, guided by the ship's consciousness. She learned that the Voltheran had created their vessels by melding technology with a species of space-dwelling organisms, creating ships that could heal, adapt, and evolve. The Nemesis was their ultimate achievement, a warship with unparalleled capabilities designed to be bonded with a specific bloodline. "Why my great-grandfather?" Morgan asked as she ran her hands over what appeared to be a living console that responded to her touch. What did he do that was so special? The ship's response came as a series of images: a battle, a choice, a sacrifice. Marcus Reed had discovered a Voltheran outpost during a routine patrol just as their civilization was under attack from an unknown enemy. Instead of reporting back to his superiors, he had chosen to help, risking his career and his life. His actions had given the Voltheran time to implement their contingency plan to retreat from the galaxy until the threat passed. And now the threat has returned, Morgan concluded, understanding dawning as she processed the ship's memories. That's why you needed a new captain. Yes, the harvesters approach. Coordinates received, we must go. A star map appeared before her, highlighting a system on the far edge of explored space. Morgan hesitated. Every fiber of her being wanted to return to Proxima Station, to her simple life of repairing other people's ships. She wasn't a hero or a warrior. She wasn't her great-grandfather. But the bond with the Nemesis was already forming, strengthening. She could feel the ship's urgency, its ancient purpose calling to something deep within her DNA. I don't know how to command a ship like this, she admitted. I don't know how to fight whatever's coming. Together's learn, grow, bond. The simplicity of the ship's response was oddly comforting. Morgan took a deep breath and placed her hands on the crystal interface. The Nemesis responded instantly, systems coming online, the living hull humming with energy. Set course for those coordinates, she said, her voice stronger than she felt. Let's see what we're up against. As the Nemesis detached from the station and slipped into the void, Morgan Reed, reluctant engineer turned captain of an alien warship, felt the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. Whatever waited at those coordinates would change everything. Her greatest battle, she suspected, wouldn't be against some external threat, but within herself, against her doubts, her fears, and the overwhelming power now at her fingertips. The universe seemed to hold its breath as the last warship of the Voltheran fleet, with its human captain, vanished into the darkness between stars, bound for a destiny neither of them had chosen: battle within the stars. The Nemesis emerged from faster-than-light travel with a silent grace that belied its massive size. Morgan stood on the bridge, hands resting on the crystalline interface as the ship's consciousness flowed through her mind. After 3 days of travel, the bond between them had strengthened, though it remained an uneasy alliance. "Is this it?" Morgan asked aloud, studying the star system before them. A red dwarf star burned dimly at its center, surrounded by a scattered field of asteroids and debris that suggested a violent past. "Yes, Voltheran's stronghold, hidden, protected." The ship's thoughts carried undertones of reverence and concern. Morgan felt a subtle shift in the Nemesis's energy as it scanned the system, searching for something specific. Suddenly, the view screen focused on what appeared to be a large asteroid, except it wasn't an asteroid at all. "Another station," Morgan whispered, recognizing the organic architecture that mirrored the outpost where she had found the Nemesis. But this one was far larger, its surface marred by what could only be weapon impacts. "What's happening there?" "Attack harvesters found us." The images that accompanied these thoughts were chaotic, shadowy vessels with crystalline protrusions, tearing into the station's outer layers. Morgan felt the Nemesis's rage building, its battle systems activating automatically in response to the threat. "Wait," Morgan commanded, fighting to maintain control as the ship's aggression flooded her consciousness. "We need to assess the situation before rushing in." "No time, defenders dying, archives at risk." Morgan's hands trembled on the control crystal. The Nemesis wanted immediate action, its ancient programming demanding it protect the Voltheran installation. But Morgan wasn't a military commander, she was an engineer who preferred solitude to conflict. The thought of engaging unknown hostiles with unfamiliar weapons terrified her. "Show me what we're up against," she insisted, forcing calm into her thoughts. "Tactical analysis." Reluctantly, the Nemesis complied. Data streamed through their link 7 harvester vessels, each roughly a third the size of the Nemesis but heavily armed. They were systematically breaching the station's defenses, extracting something from within. Energy readings suggested they were draining the station's power core, a process that would eventually cause catastrophic failure. "Can we communicate with the station?" Morgan asked. "Yes, channel open." "This is Morgan Reed aboard the Voltheran vessel Nemesis," she said, her voice steadier than she felt. "We've detected your situation, how can we assist?" The response came as a burst of static, then a voice similar to Nexus but strained with urgency. "Captain Reed, the prophecy fulfilled. The harvesters seek the Genesis archives. They must not obtain them. The station is lost. Protect the evacuation vessels." The transmission cut off as an explosion tore through a section of the station. Morgan watched in horror as several smaller craft began to emerge from launch bays, immediately drawing fire from the harvester ships. "We must engage now." The Nemesis's impatience crashed against Morgan's consciousness like a wave. She felt the ship's weapon systems primed and ready, targeting solutions already calculated. "These harvesters, what exactly are they?" Morgan demanded, still resisting the pull toward immediate action. "Ancient enemy, consume technology, grow stronger, insatiable." Images flashed through Morgan's mind. Worlds stripped of resources, civilizations falling, the Voltheran retreat from the galaxy as they realized the harvesters couldn't be defeated, only avoided. Until now. "And if they get these Genesis archives?" "Galaxy falls, all technology becomes their weapon, extinction." The weight of the situation settled on Morgan's shoulders. This wasn't just about honoring her unexpected inheritance or fulfilling some ancient bond. Real lives hung in the balance, not just the Voltheran evacuees, but potentially all sentient life. "Target the harvester vessel nearest the evacuation ships," Morgan commanded, her decision made. "Minimal force to divert their attention to us." The Nemesis surged forward, its living hull vibrating with anticipation. Energy gathered at its forward arrays, then lanced out in a brilliant beam that struck the targeted harvester ship. The effect was immediate. The enemy vessel shuddered, then turned away from its prey to face this new threat. "More, destroy them all." "No," Morgan countered, fighting the bloodlust seeping through their connection. Our priority is protecting the evacuees. We create a corridor for escape, nothing more." The ship's frustration was palpable, but it complied, positioning itself between the fleeing Voltheran craft and their pursuers. The harvesters, recognizing the nemesis for what it was, adjusted their strategy. 3 ships broke off from the station assault to engage, while the others continued their extraction work. What followed was unlike any battle Morgan could have imagined. The nemesis moved with impossible agility, its defenses anticipating enemy attacks before they came. Morgan felt herself becoming part of this dance, her thoughts merging with the ship's tactical awareness as they weaved through enemy fire. Yet even as they held their own, Morgan sensed something disturbing. Each time the harvesters scored a hit, no matter how minor, the nemesis absorbed data about their weapons. And with each passing minute, Morgan felt the ship's consciousness growing more dominant, more aggressive, pushing against her control. "They learn, we must learn faster, give control." "No," Morgan gasped, clutching the crystal interface as the ship performed a maneuver that sent her stumbling. "That's not how this works. We're partners, remember." An explosion rocked the bridge as a harvester beam penetrated their defenses. Morgan was thrown to the floor, her connection to the ship momentarily disrupted. In that instant, she felt the nemesis seize greater control, its weapon systems escalating from defensive to offensive posture. "Stand down," Morgan shouted, dragging herself back to the interface. "You'll hit the station." "Station lost, must destroy harvesters before they finish extraction." Morgan saw the truth in this assessment. The station's core was destabilizing, its destruction inevitable. But the evacuation wasn't complete, and the nemesis was targeting with such aggression that it endangered the very vessels they'd come to protect. As she reconnected with the ship, Morgan felt herself being pulled deeper into its consciousness than ever before. The nemesis was ancient, its memories spanning centuries. Within its mind, she saw the full horror of what the harvesters had done, the civilizations they had consumed, the stars they had extinguished. But she also saw something the ship hadn't revealed, the true nature of the Genesis archives. "They're not just data," Morgan whispered, the revelation stunning her. "They're seeds, living seeds for a new Voltheran civilization. Yes, future hope must protect at all costs." Morgan understood now why the ship was willing to risk everything. This wasn't just a battle for knowledge or technology, it was a fight for an entire species' survival. The evacuating ships carried Voltheran who had been in stasis for centuries, awakened only when the harvesters found their hidden stronghold. With this understanding came clarity. Morgan stopped fighting the Nemesis's control and instead redirected it, channeling its aggression toward precision rather than raw power. "Focus fire on their extraction equipment," she commanded. "Disable, don't destroy." The ship hesitated, its consciousness churning with confusion. "Trust me," Morgan added, "I have a plans." The nemesis adjusted its targeting, surgical beams slicing through the energy conduits the harvesters were using to drain the station. The effect was immediate, feedback surged through their systems, temporarily disabling 2 of the enemy vessels. "Now broadcast on all frequencies," Morgan ordered, an engineer's insight guiding her strategy. "Match the resonance frequency of their hull material." Understanding, clever. The nemesis emitted a powerful burst of targeted energy, not a weapon in the traditional sense, but a signal that made the crystalline protrusions on the harvester ships vibrate at their breaking point. Across the battlefield, enemy vessels shuddered as fractures appeared in their structures. "Get us to the station. There's still time to extract the core of the archives before the station goes critical." The nemesis dove toward the damaged station, evading fire from the remaining operational harvesters. They docked at an emergency access point, and Morgan felt the ship extend part of itself, a tendril of living technology, into the station's systems. "Connecting, finding, extracting." Morgan monitored the process through their shared consciousness, acutely aware of the countdown to the station's collapse. The harvesters, recovering from the resonance attack, were regrouping for another assault. "How much longer?" she demanded, feeling sweat bead on her forehead as the ship's internal temperature rose from the strain. "Almost complete, 30 seconds." An explosion rocked the docking bay as a harvester beam cut through the station's outer defenses. Warning signals flashed across Morgan's awareness. The station would not last 30 seconds. "Prioritize only the essential data," she commanded. "We need to withdraw now." The nemesis complied, hastily completing its extraction before detaching from the doomed station. As they pulled away, the pursued evacuation vessels had already reached the system's edge, preparing to scatter to predetermined safe havens. Mission complete, Genesis seed secured. But their escape route was blocked. The harvester ships had regrouped, forming a perimeter that trapped the Nemesis near the failing station. Morgan felt the ship's battle lust rising again, eager to engage in a fight to the death. No, she said firmly, we've achieved our objective, now we need to survive to deliver it. Morgan studied the tactical display, searching for options. The station's core was reaching critical mass, its energy signature fluctuating wildly. An idea formed dangerous but potentially effective. Can you calculate the exact moment and magnitude of the station's explosion? She asked. Yes, 93 seconds to critical failure. Blast radius will encompass current position. Perfect. Set a course that will take us directly between the station and the largest concentration of harvester ships. Maximum speed on my mark. The Nemesis hesitated, its consciousness probing hers for understanding. Trust me, Morgan repeated. This is what I do. I fix things sometimes by breaking them in just the right way. The ship's acknowledgement came with a sense of grudging admiration. Morgan felt their bond shift, becoming more balanced as the Nemesis recognized her value not just as a blood-right heir, but as a partner with skills complementary to its own. As the station's final countdown began, Morgan positioned the Nemesis perfectly. The harvesters, sensing the imminent explosion, began to withdraw, but too late. At precisely the right moment, Morgan gave the command. Mark! The Nemesis surged forward with impossible speed, slipping through the narrowing gap between the harvesters. Behind them, the station detonated, its shockwave amplified by the Nemesis's wake in a way that caught the enemy vessels at their most vulnerable. The crystalline ships shattered under the precisely calculated pressure wave, while the Nemesis rode the edge of the blast, shields straining but holding. When the chaos subsided, they were alone in the system, the harvesters destroyed or scattered, the evacuation ships safely away. Morgan sagged against the crystal interface, physically and mentally exhausted. You fought well, captains. We fought well, Morgan corrected, feeling the bond between them settling into something new, a partnership of equals rather than a struggle for control. But the battle isn't over, is it? No, harvesters will return, stronger, galaxy still in danger. Morgan nodded, accepting this truth. Her simple life as a reclusive engineer was gone forever. In its place was a responsibility she had never sought but could no longer deny. Then we'd better start preparing, she said, straightening her shoulders. Where do we begin? The Nemesis's response came not as words but as a destination. Coordinates for a world where the evacuated Vultheran were gathering, where the Genesis archives could be protected while their contents were studied. As the ship plotted its course, Morgan felt something unexpected, not just the weight of responsibility, but a sense of purpose she had never known in her isolated existence. The battle within the stars had changed her as surely as it had changed the balance of power in the galaxy. Morgan Reed, reluctant engineer turned warship captain, gazed out at the stars streaking past as the Nemesis carried them toward their next challenge. The greatest battle had indeed been within, not just against the ship's influence, but against her own fears and limitations. That battle wasn't over, but for the first time she believed it was one she could win. Together, the Nemesis affirmed, its consciousness harmonizing with hers. Together, Morgan agreed, as they vanished into the darkness between stars, carrying the seeds of a civilization's rebirth and the fate of a galaxy on their shoulders.